Welcome to Gunz and Bunz, a podcast that celebrates strong, successful women. My name is Bethany Guthard, and I will be your host. Please like and subscribe to our Gunz and Rollz fitness channel to see more episodes like this one. Today, I would love to welcome my friend and guest, Addie Edling. When I was thinking about a strong, successful female, I immediately thought of Addie. She is a wife, a mom of two, and a 10-year veteran middle school teacher. Addie graduated with her undergrad at Winthrop University with a Bachelor of Science in Middle Level Education with a dual certification in Math and ELA. Addie went on to achieve her Master's in Instructional Design from Western Governors University. She is now a math interventionist, instructional coach at her school, and she also teaches an 8th grade math class and helps me often with my 6th grade in her pre-AP math class. Texted you a few times.
Yep.
And as if that weren't enough, she is a Jiu Jitsu blue belt that has been practicing BJJ for 2 years. She enjoys baking sourdough, singing, reading, hunting, and lifting weights. Addie is a child advocate interested in brain development and respectful, gentle parenting. She is an avid podcast listener and especially enjoys true crime, and so maybe she can teach us a few things today. Welcome, friend.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here.
Me too.
Awesome. So, Addie, start off today with telling us what drives you and motivates you to do all these things. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. So I started deciding that I wanted to have hobbies in my late 20s. Before that, I played softball growing up in school. Of course, when I was younger, I played soccer, and then I did some cheerleading and dance. I did ballet when I was a toddler, 3-4 years old, but I remember it. But that was really it. I never really had, I guess, the desire or want when I was growing up to, do physical sports, a lot of physical sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was a reader. I was a quiet, shy child. And there's nothing wrong with that. But so I chose my late 20s to decide to jump in and start doing new things. But what motivates me, I heard the question right, what motivates me to do all these things, I really like to stay active. I have self-diagnosed ADHD, and I know I have it. Like, my brain goes a million miles an hour. Like, it's very hard for me to focus on one thing at a time. So doing things to keep myself busy really helps me manage it. And then, of course, I just want to be a good example for my kids. I want to show them that, like, they can do whatever they want to do in life. And it doesn't have to be, it might not always be exactly what they expect, because like, I never expected to be doing jiu-jitsu ever. I never thought I would bake bread. Like, I never did. Like, I'm not a baker. So the fact that I am challenging myself, getting out of my comfort zone and doing things that are hard, I think gives my kids a positive example in life. It's all about modeling, and I want them to see that they can do things that even things that they don't think they can do.
Absolutely. Love it. So going back to jiu-jitsu, can you kind of talk a little bit about when you started that journey? In your bio, we talked a little bit about the weightlifting. So kind of tell us the timeline. When did all of this start? When did you decide to kind of start picking up some of these hobbies? You mentioned late 20s, but tell us the timeline a little bit more about that.
So my son was born in October of 2019. And right before that, I had been diagnosed with postpartum depression. So it's crazy that I was diagnosed with that before he was born. Usually it's, I guess, after, but it was bad. I really struggled for about 2 years after he was born to just regulate myself and be at a place where I felt normal. And then, of course, I started taking medicine, and that helped, but it gave me some side effects like weight gain. And, if I didn't take it consistently, I was very moody, and I didn't want to stay on medicine forever. And I'm not knocking medicine. Like, if medicine helps you, please take the medicine. Like, we have to do what we have to do to survive and live a comfortable life. But for me, I just knew that that's not something that I wanted to have to deal with forever. So So I replaced that with exercise. Wonderful. So I started Beachbody and doing home workouts. And I started with 5-pound weights, like nothing serious, just worked my way up. And then Jiu Jitsu started 2 years ago. My husband started before I did, and he never really, he never tried to force me into it. He never he was just, that was his thing. And I was like, okay, that's your thing. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I do not have any interest in rolling around with sweaty people. But I came to some gym friends' house, Stephanie and Chris, for a New Year's Eve party, and y'all were there. Yes. And the women, I've never really had a lot of girlfriends. The girls that I grew up with, I had girlfriends, but not like a big group of like supportive. When you're growing up, like you're growing up with your childhood friends, and you're all on kind of the same maturity level, and teenage girls are just catty sometimes, and there's drama, and it never really felt like truly supportive and like these are the people that I want in my life forever. So I have always really just gotten along better with guys. But you guys were so supportive and like welcomed me in, and I remember like the first it was very awkward for me. I'm not an extroverted person. I'm an introvert. But you were like, oh yeah, I heard you were a teacher, and I was like, oh, she's a teacher. Like these are my people. Like teachers are my people. I don't care if I can't get along with anybody else. I'm gonna find a teacher, and we will talk for days. Yeah. So you guys all like were very welcoming to me and just made me feel comfortable. Yeah. And then y'all invited me on the girls' night in January.
Yep. I remember peer pressuring you. Yeah, when are you going to start jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was peer pressure. It was pure peer pressure. So it did not come from my husband at all. It was from you guys. And it was crazy because I'd only known y'all like 2 weeks. And I'm like, but it just felt so natural and so loving right from the beginning. And so after that January competition that my husband did, and that was the one you did where you beat the 20-year-old.
I know, I got double gold. I actually won.
After that, I was like, oh my God, like if she's out here like doing it. I was like, this is amazing to see. Like it was really inspirational. And so I started the Monday after that. I was like, I'm coming to class. And so the rest is history. I love Jiu Jitsu. It's been so awesome for my mental health.
Yes.
So I think anybody can do it. I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you come from. Get in the gym and do Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah. And even on a bad day, like when you're at work and you're stressed and you want to spend more time at work to get stuff done because you know that that'll help like with the anxiety of getting things done and like the stress. But a lot of times I end up going to the gym anyway. I get myself there, and when I leave, I never regret it. I'm always like, I feel good. Like sometimes it depends on if I'm doing well that day, but I never regret it. You never regret a workout. No. And I just love that about Jiu Jitsu. That's one thing that really kind of keeps me coming back, right?
Yeah.
So going back to the lifting weights, you had said like you had gained some weight, and then did you say how much you lost?
So I lost about 40 pounds lifting weights from 2020 to 2023. Yeah. And then when I started jiu-jitsu, I lost the other 20. Wow. It just took it right off. You got to fight as a white belt. You got to scrap it. It's like life or death when you're a white belt, you know? So
one thing that kind of resonated with me, you did a post after Addie just wins gold every time she competes. But there was a tournament you did, and it was like after one of your first ones, and you had your gold medals and you write on them, and it was cool. You even put like your weight, like how much you weighed, and it was cool to kind of see the progression of when you first started jiu-jitsu, like where you were at. You put like the date, like. And all of that. And it was just kind of cool to see, like, you were still progressively losing weight over time. And you just have, like, she's so strong. Oh, my goodness. I remember rolling with you early on, and I was like, I can see her shoulder muscles. I'm like, this girl's so strong. It's just been so cool to kind of see you, like, even develop more as the process has gone on. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I've always struggled with my weight growing up, just being, food and the whole just empty your plate, the clean plate club, like that was definitely my family. And so I really struggled with my weight all my life. And I feel like as crazy as it sounds, like with jiu-jitsu, you've always got people talking about, well, I'm this weight and I got to be at this weight for the competition. And like, it's a very weight-centered sport, but it's not like a negative weight-centered sport. So it really opened my eyes and helped me realize that like I should really embrace the body that I have because of what it can do for me. And, you know, I don't care, like, this is just me. This is who I am. This is the build that I have. Yeah. And like, could I afford to lose more weight? Sure. But do I really care to? Like, no, because I'm happy with where I'm at. Yes. And I know how to use my body weight now in the right way in jiu-jitsu. And I really feel like it benefits me to be the size that I am. Yeah. And so, you know, it's been a very positive experience for my mental state when it comes to like the weight.
And I feel the same way too. I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be a certain number, and I still do, don't get me wrong. Like, but sometimes I tell myself it's an arbitrary number. I need to stop focusing on the scale so much. Yes, is it important when you're competing? Like, yeah, I want to fight at this weight class. Yes, do I feel maybe a little lighter, maybe a little faster at a certain weight? But at the same time, I feel like I've had to kind of retrain my brain in the past few years, ever since I started weightlifting too, and then doing jiu-jitsu, to kind of think more so about, I think strength matters to me more now that I'm in this sport. Yeah. And there is an emphasis on lifting more, I feel too, especially with some of these girls at the gym where they're so strong. And I'm like, well, I am strong, but I could get stronger too by lifting and focusing more on that, and not so much about being, I need to be this tiny, frail little thing that weighs 120 pounds. Yeah. And so that's kind of changed my mindset too. I feel like it's more important to be strong. And it's also a good, I think, message to send to our children, our girls especially. Like I notice sometimes with my daughter too, like she puts a lot of focus on just being so skinny, but like at the same time, Kevin and I have tried to really just pour into our kids about making healthy choices and focus more on the athletic side of it too, like using your weight. Like you said, you know how to move your body now, and you know how to really just appreciate the body that you're in.
Yes. And that's one thing with Beachbody. When I started Beachbody, like they really focus on non-scale victories. Yes. So like, don't get on the scale. What do your pants feel like when you put them on? Like last week you could only do 3 push-ups. This week you can do 5. Like so, focus on things that you can't necessarily measure by number. And that really helped shift my perspective too. Through the whole process.
Right. I grew up in a family of 7. And we didn't have a ton of money. And so like what we had is what we had for food. It was usually a casserole because that is cheap to make and it feeds a family of 7. And I just remember like eating fast, because if you want seconds, you got to eat fast because it's a family of 7. Yep. And so that has kind of made me eat a certain way. And then also like healthier food options cost more money. Yep. And so I've had to kind of, again, retrain my brain in what I'm eating, how I'm eating. And I just think there's so much importance of your body is like your temple, right? Yes. It's like you have to protect it. You have to make good food choices. And so again, every day is a struggle for me. I'm going to eat healthy today, and then I might eat something bad like here or there, or something I probably shouldn't, but I guess it's just making those cognitive choices. Like I'm going to be aware of what I'm eating, what I'm filling my body with.
I try to go by like the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you're eating clean, and 20% of the time you have what you want to have, because I feel like you just have to have a balance in life. If you restrict yourself and say, well, I can never eat a cookie again, like you're going to eat the cookie again. So just say, I'm going to have cookies occasionally. Yeah. Like, it's not a big deal. We still love our body. We can still have a cookie. Yes, like, it's not going to kill us. You know, like, we have to be balanced. We have to love ourselves and our bodies enough to know that, you know, it's not going to kill us to have something that we shouldn't have every once in a while. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your day-to-day. So you're in education, started in the classroom. You're a middle school teacher. God bless you.
Yeah.
But people say that about elementary school teachers too, and high school, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Same thing. So tell us a little bit about middle school world and what's going on in your day-to-day.
Well, middle school is hard. These middle schoolers these days, especially like post-COVID, they're a different breed. But I love them. I mean, I love them to death. I love helping them navigate through this hard time in their life. I mean, they're going through puberty and they're going through hormone shifts and they're trying to figure out who they are. And they're at that time where they don't want the authority, but they do want the authority. Like they need the structure.
Yes.
They don't know how to ask for it. So just being able to be a positive influence on their life and show them the right way through modeling with my actions is really, it's just a passion. Like I love what I do. I don't know. It's just indescribable,
awesome. And I see it in you. I definitely do. So you started with the math emphasis, like you were a classroom math teacher, right?
Yep.
And so now you're now out of the classroom, more of an instructional coach, math interventionist for some kids, but you still have a 8th grade math class that you teach, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about the coaching aspect, like teaching other teachers. 'Cause that's
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Adults are harder, I think, in some ways to deal with than children, especially because I've had 10 years of developing a relationship with kids, and I have not always gotten it correct. I mean, I really haven't. But adults are harder, I think, because they're more set in their ways. They're like, this is what I like, and this is what I'm going to do, and you can't change my mind, you know?
Yeah.
But I love it too because I get to build relationships with my math teachers in kind of the same way that I do with the kids too. And just building that trust of, I'm not here to be your enemy. I'm not here to tell you what you're doing wrong. I'm here to guide you and help you be better. Like,
do you feel like they're receptive to you?
I think so.
Because you're younger. I mean,
yeah, I think so. Yeah. And what's hard for me too is like older teachers, veteran teachers that have been teaching longer than I have. Because especially, sometimes I feel like, okay, I've only been teaching 10 years and they've been teaching a lot longer than I have. Like, how are they going to take advice from me? But I always go back to the trust and the relationship piece first. Yes. Like, that's where it starts. It starts with that with kids too. Like, I can't teach kids if they don't trust me. Absolutely. And if they don't know that I'm going to be there for them and that I love and care about them. So it's the same with adults too. Adults want to feel seen and they want to feel heard and they want to know that they're doing the right things. So I start with that. And I love my math department. I love just interacting with them, learning with them. And, I learn just as much as them from them as they learn from me. And I think that's the way it should be. It should never be, leadership is not about me telling you what to do. It's guiding you to where you need to be individually.
Right. And making people feel like they're in charge of their own ship, right? Yes. Like it's more like you're planting the seed for them so that they will take it, own it, run with it, and make it their own.
Giving them a voice.
Yeah. I love that. So you had also mentioned to me, and I see this all the time on your socials, and you always advocate for kids. And I see the passion in the kids that you teach, right? Like you love your kids. I see that all the time.
I do.
And so tell us why you have such a passion for, advocating for kids, and what is it that kind of has gotten you to this point in your life that
So, growing up, I had a wonderful, loving family, but they were not always emotionally mature or emotionally available in the ways that I needed. I feel like I was a very sensitive child. I was a shy child. And so big feelings were scary for the adults in my life. They didn't know how to handle them. And so, therefore, I was shut down. And I don't think it's that because of, that they were bad or anything. Like, I don't have bad parents. I have great parents, but they just didn't have the tools that they needed. And there's so much more research nowadays. Yes. And so I take advantage of the research. I don't always get it right. I mean, I don't think we ever will always get it right. There's no perfect parent out here in the world. But if I can use the resources to try to help guide me and correct me when I do mess up, I feel like that just will make a huge difference. I really feel like I've seen this meme or quote on Facebook several times now. It's like, all we need is one generation of deeply, deeply loving and connected parents, and that could change the world. Yeah. And I truly believe that. Like, we have to do our job as the adults. Like, kids are kids. They're gonna come into this world and they're gonna test your boundaries. They don't come here to be robots. Right. They're not just little obedient, here, sit down, do what I say. Like, they're gonna test you. That's what they're made to do. Their brains are not fully developed, and so we have to be their brain. We have to guide them in the correct way, and we have to be willing to repair when we mess up, which is something that I never had growing up. I didn't hear "I'm sorry that I treated you that way." I got the belt, and that really was hard for me to have to deal with as an adult especially after I had kids. All of those feelings of childhood came back to me in my practices as a parent. And I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel good about the way that I was parenting my daughter. So I just knew, like, I have to change something, and it has to start with me. The change has to start with us as the adults. We can't expect kids to change just by telling them, you need to do this, you need to do that. We have to show them. We have to model it for them. Yeah. And it took me a while to realize that because, I haven't always been the best example for my kids. Like, I swear, and then my kids swear, and I'm like, don't swear. They're like, but you did. And I'm like, and then I have to think, like, they're right. Like, they're totally right. If I don't want them to do something, I can't do it myself. Like, I have to change my ways. And it's been hard, but it's something that I'm working towards every day, learning and trying to do the best I can.
You said so many good things, because I see this too. As a teacher, I have evolved so much. Like, I look back when I started teaching in my 20s, and I'm like, I feel like I'm a much better teacher now. I feel like becoming a mom made me a better teacher. Yeah. I don't know if you feel that way. And it just made me appreciate kids more, because I started to see other people's kids like, well, if that was my child, I would want a teacher to treat them X, Y, and Z, or do these things for them. And so I feel like that has kind of changed along the way. And like, it's a learning process, right? Like, you grow with your kids, and but it is really important to model for them what to do. I feel like so many times I even see it in teacher eyes when I kind of see my husband, right? Like, when he tells the kids to do something, I'm like, well, do they know what you're talking about? Have you modeled it for them? Like, it's funny. You start to see like teacher world come into your everyday like parenting life. And I do think that's really important. And then, like you said, apologizing, like if you did the wrong thing or hurt them, because they are just little people, and their brains aren't fully developed. And so we need to be the more mature person that's going to do the right thing for them and lay the groundwork so they know how to be.
I started listening to Unruffled. It's a podcast by Janet Lansbury. She does the whole like respectful parenting. She learned from Magda Gerber. So I really started like listening to a lot of her work, and that transformed my parenting a lot, but also my teaching in the classroom. Like, I run my classroom completely differently than I used to even 3 years ago. And I've seen the changes in my students just with the differences that I've made in my own life. And I can truly say now, if I'm telling my students to do something, I'm not going to tell them to do something that I don't already practice myself. And they can see that. They don't, and like middle school kids, they know when you're like BSing. They know. And so you really can't. You have to show up and practice what you preach, because they will call you out in a minute, and they will know that you're a fraud, So if I tell my kids, like, this is the way that I want something done, I'm doing it the same way that they are. I'm modeling what I expect, and they see that, and I think it helps so much just with the relationships I'm able to have with them and the trust that I build with them. And they, a lot of my kids, and a lot of kids in general, I think, struggle with math. Like, When you hear about what was your worst favorite or your worst subject in school, it's always math. And I'm like, oh my God, there's such a stigma around math. And like people just don't feel comfortable. And I get it. I mean, I totally get it. But the first part of teaching math is not actually about the math. It's about the trust.
Yeah.
And so if I can build the trust with my kids, then I can teach them the math.
Yeah.
And then I can see the growth. So we have to focus on that first.
It's so interesting to me because like our school, we have been doing this program called Capturing Kids' Hearts. And the whole idea is literally surrounding capturing the kid's heart. Like they're not going to listen to you if they don't like trust you, respect you, look up to you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's common sense. Like that should be something like, hey, I'm going to engage in this relationship with this person for 10 months. Like we have to love one another, grow with one another, work through hard things together. And yet it's like we have a program coming in teaching teachers how to just treat kids respectfully and be nice to them. And like, and the idea surrounding that, once you do that, they're going to work hard. They're going to want to please you and they're going to want to do what's right.
Yeah.
And it just seems so shocking to me that we even have to teach that, but we do.
I know.
We do.
It's insane. I feel like kids in general in our society are just very disrespected. They really are. They are discriminated against. And I hate that. I hate seeing that. And I hate when kids feel that way. I want kids to feel empowered to be the best version of themselves that they can be, and I want kids to grow up and not have to heal from their childhood. I want them to not have to deal with anxiety and depression. So if we can change ourselves, we can change them.
Yeah. I also grew up in that environment where it's like kids are to be seen and not heard, right? And so like you have to be quiet, respect adults. So I struggle with it. I see both sides because like there's also a part of me that I'm like, if a child does X, Y, and Z, I'm like, I might feel disrespected. And then there's a part of me that struggles with it, right? Like the authority portion of it. Yet also like I respect you as a child. Like it's hard. But again, going back to what you said, you made a point that like we just have to try our best and we have to really, again, put that relationship and the needs of the kid too.
Yeah. Well, and you have to know yourself. You have to, part of, being consistent and disciplined with yourself and your own practices is being self-reflective and knowing your own triggers and knowing that children are going to test the boundaries and they're going to trigger you. And you have to be able to recognize, okay, this act is triggering me right now. What am I going to do to bring myself back down to a state of homeostasis so that then I can deal with the child? The feelings, kids do things all the time. Their feelings are okay and their feelings are accepted. Their behaviors don't have to be. Yeah. And I think that's a big common misconception with parents that are like, well, I don't practice gentle parenting. Gentle parenting is how we got here. And I'm just like, no, gentle parenting is not letting your kids get away with whatever they want to get away with. Like that's actually absent parenting. Gentle parenting is setting boundaries and being loving and firm and clear in those boundaries. They don't get away with whatever they want to do. They don't make the rules, know, but there is, wiggle room and freedom within, okay, if I feel that I'm being, or if I feel that something is unjust as a child, I feel comfortable that I can go to my parent and I can say, Mom, Dad, I'm really struggling with this. I don't understand why, we have this rule or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And then they can talk about it together as a family unit. And it's not, you're going to do what I said because I'm your dad, you know, which is how I grew up. And that really cuts off the connection with a child. And
like later on too, when they're older, like you want them. My biggest fear is that when they're teenagers, like hiding things because for fear of getting in trouble, whatever it may be. And hopefully that would keep the line of communication open so that they can trust you down the line to come with some big, heavy things.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. All right. So I think we hit the part about like why you decided to be a teacher. Like you've always, like, that's been a passion of yours since you were young, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And what would you say would be something like you're most proud of, whether it's your career, your personal life, where you're at today, like on your fitness journey, your health journey?
Well, there's a lot of things. I think number one, obviously, is being a mom. Just the ability to have a part of me and my husband, and just raising them and getting to be in their life and like just see them grow up and be who they want to be, and like support them fully in that, like just truly love and care about what they do and them as people. And we make mistakes and we repair and we go along the way. And, I want to be able to look back and say, I enjoyed these years, like, despite the challenges, that we were all able to grow together. So I think that's my number one. Like, I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud to be a mom.
That's awesome. And to do all the things you do.
Yeah, dude, I'm so busy all the time.
I feel like I say that too, and then it's kind of hard because I'm like, well, other people are doing these things too. Yeah. The juggling our career, I would say our career, just because I know other jobs are hard too and demanding, but I feel like ours is different in a sense, because like we take a lot home and do a lot outside of our job, but then also trying to find time to fit in time for you to be healthy and like to work out, and then you have goals you want to accomplish, and then the kids probably have, I mean, your kids are what age again? So we have
8 and 5.
So okay, so the social calendar for your kids starts to get a little bit busy too over time. And so I feel like I'm in the trenches at this point in my life. I don't know if you feel that way too.
Yeah. And I haven't even hit like as bad as I think like you have it right now, as far as sports. Yeah. Like, I mean, Lila does dance. Hudson does, he's about to start baseball. And then of course we do Jiu Jitsu. They don't do it. And I have my own kind of, I might need to pick your brain more on, because I've thought about like, do I make them do Jiu Jitsu because I know how empowering it is, and I know that it's good for you, and it's, it's one of those things where they're learning self-defense too. So if they get in a situation, they're able to protect themselves. Yeah. But then I struggle with, well, if I make them do something that they don't want to do, what are the repercussions of that down the road? Will they resent me? So that's something that I've really been struggling with.
What is I was thinking about this the other day with you. Like, what is a typical training? Since you brought up jiu-jitsu too, like, what does a typical week look like for you? Like, how many days on do you train for jiu-jitsu? How many days do you lift? I even heard you went running the other day.
I run.
Did I see that?
Yeah.
In a text?
I don't like it, but I do it because it's good for your body.
So like, kind of, how do you determine what days you're going to do jiu-jitsu and lifting?
So jiu-jitsu really is, that's like our number one for the week, since we both do it. We sit down and nail out, okay, what days are we going to be able to go? So we try to stick with the rule of twice a week. Okay. That's about as much as we can do. Now, if I could train 6 or 7 days a week, I would. Like, I love it. But to balance out the kids, their hobbies with ours, with work, and then also, just spending time together, because I don't want my kids feeling like all I care about is my hobbies and then I don't spend any time with them. So we stick with twice a week for jiu-jitsu. I do once or twice a week lifting during the school year, especially. I'll try to go more during the summer, but in the school year, it's just hard. And then, with after school meetings, and I work an after school program every Thursday. So I'm gone until 6:30 at night doing that. So I'm really only home once a week. I'm going to interject. You also attend sporting events for your students. I've seen this. She supports her school. And I always wonder, I'm like, wow, how do you do that? Oh, that's another whole thing. So I have to sit down and print out all the schedules and think about, okay, I could definitely possibly go to these 3 games and then nail it down to 1. But I try to go to at least 1 sporting event for my kids. So when it's hard too, because I have my middle school kids, but then I have the group that I taught 2 years ago. Aww. They were like my favorite group ever. Yeah. And I know you're not supposed to say we have favorites as teachers, but like they just really, they helped me heal more that year than I thought I ever could. Wow. because I wanted to quit on them. Like week 1, I was like, I'm going to find another job. Like these kids are crazy. Something's wrong with them. Yeah. But I stayed and stuck it out, and I was like, you know what? I'm quit being a baby, put your big girl panties on, and like figure out how to connect with these kids. And they really helped me a lot. So I still keep in touch with them, and I still try to attend their events too. So it's a lot, but I love it. You know, I love, you know, just staying busy.
My daughter always says to me, she's like, stop calling them your kids. We're your kids. And I'm like, no, but they are my kids.
They are.
They really become another part of you. And it's interesting. I think back, like, my first class of 5th graders, so what, they were 10, and I'm on year 19. Those kids are what, like 29 years old? Like, it's like, they're full-grown adults, probably parents now, and it's just, but it's cool when you look back, or I have another one reach out to me, like, on Instagram or something. It's like, cool to know you made a difference, and, like, that they still care about you and think about you. So
I had a student the other day tag me in a Facebook post, and it was like, tag your favorite, who's your favorite teacher ever, and she tagged me and the other 8th grade social studies teacher that taught her that year, and I was like, this is just so nice to... It's like full circle. Like, you know, they say the day that you plant the seed is not the day that you'll eat the fruit. So just to have kids coming back years later and say, like, you were my favorite teacher. Like, they're still thinking about me, you know. And I do the same thing. Like, I still remember all of my favorite teachers. Like, they were pivotal in my life. So
I love it.
It's an important job.
Who or what inspires you the most right now? Maybe there's multiple because, again, there's different avenues of your life, right? Yeah. There's not a one-size-fits-all all the time.
No. I mean, in terms of jiu-jitsu, like, all of the women inspire me. Like, y'all are just such strong people, like, people that I never would have really saw myself, like, connecting with. But, and it's interesting, the dynamic that we have, because we all are our own people with our own interests, but we find commonality with jiu-jitsu. And we're able to just connect in that way, like just a different way than any other typical female friendship. And it's just, so you guys are all inspiring to me.
I love that.
You all drive me to want to be better and, you know, want to just be the best version of me. And then, you know, I'm really inspired by my students too, because some of my kids have been through things that I could never even... Like, I'm thinking, if I ever had to go through that, I don't know that I could come back from it. I don't know that I could recover. But yet, here they are, still showing up to school every day. You know, not that they even want to be. Some of them might not want to be there or see their purpose. But, like, that's my job. That's where I come in. And I'm like, okay, let me help you find your purpose. But they inspire me because they really have gone through some bad stuff in their life. And and so if they can go through that, even though they shouldn't have to at 12, 13, I know that I need to quit whining and complaining and get to work, you know.
We always say kids are resilient. We need to, I mean, adults need to try practicing resiliency, right? I know. We were saying that the other day too, because this year I have a lot of ML students, so multilingual students that have just like ended up, you know, in America, and they just show up in my classroom one day and they don't know the language. And it's, I mean, as stressful and daunting as that can seem to a teacher who's already managing a class full of kids, which is a lot, you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes too, because like they're in a country where they don't know the language and they have to survive. And it's like sink or swim. And so that is like its own monumental feat in its own, right? And I have to kind of like look at them in admiration. Like, at least they're here and they're trying and they're making do. And so there's a lot to be learned there as well. So
well, you know, the education system doesn't make it easy on them either, because we throw all these tests at them. And of course, like, when you don't know the language, like, if I went to another country and they gave me a test in French, like, I'm going to fail it. And then, you know, they fail. And then, of course, we start attaching their failure to who they are as a person. And it's like, oh, well, you know, and then they feel bad. And it's like, no, like, you don't know the language. Like, it's okay.
I know.
So I wish that we could get away from attaching test scores to kids and their self-worth. It's just horrible.
I don't know if this is a little redundant, but I was thinking about this in terms of education, but again, it could be any area of your life. What's the most rewarding part of what you do? I know you said they inspire you. So it kind of goes along with that, but
yeah.
What would you say is the most rewarding part?
I think knowing that I have so many people that depend on me or look up to me or rely on me, I guess, pushes me to be better because I know that I can't, I have to practice what I preach. Yeah. So I really try to work on myself and be a positive role model, especially for women too. Like, I'm kind of, I guess if you want to say like feminist, I'm not a man hater. Like no. I love men and men have a wonderful place in society and we wouldn't function without them. And, so I respect men and their jobs and, I think they have a lot of stress on their plate too, in terms of just being the provider and, the traditional gender roles and things like that, which are crazy to me. But I really want women to feel empowered and know that like they don't have to depend on a man. Like they need to find their worth from within and not from external outside validation. So the only way to get that point across is to be that way myself. Yeah. And so I'm very much an independent person. Do I depend on my husband? Yes, because we're married and, we have a good relationship. We're best friends and we have a happy marriage and stuff. But I'm also my own person too. I'm not attached to him in that way. Like he's his own person. I'm my own person. And I can still do things that fulfill me and fill my bucket. Just like I want him to do things for him that he enjoys that fills his bucket. Yes. And I think it's so important. And I think that's kind of where people miss the mark with relationships. It's like people think, oh, I have to be attached to this one person. Like we have to do everything together and we have to do this and that. And it's just like, no, like we can do our own things and we can still love and care about each other and we can still respect each other. Yes, but absolutely. I'm going to be me and I'm going to do what makes me happy and take care of myself because if I don't take care of me, then I can't take care of anybody else. Right. So.
I love it. The rewarding part with teaching absolutely is like you kind of said too, it's like you're constantly learning and changing, right? And I never want to become stagnant either. And it's every year you have to learn either whether it's a new curriculum or you're learning your students each year or you're meeting the demands of the job. And it can bog you down. But it is rewarding knowing that you're making a difference. You're trying your best to do all of the different initiatives that get put in front of you. Yeah. That's what I tell myself, just like one day at a time. I have to take one day at a time. Yep. If I'm at least trying one of the things they want me to be doing or making sure I'm attempting to do this new thing or this new task, I just try to constantly better myself, try. And I feel like that is pretty rewarding in itself. Besides the obvious point that you're making a difference in the lives of kids, right? Yeah. But yeah, that's what's pretty cool about our job. We're constantly learning new things, and
we are.
Education is always evolving, right?
It is.
So the premise of this podcast is that we have strong, successful women on, and so what would you say? Strong is, and then we're going to hit success too. But let's start with strong. What do you think strong looks like or is?
I think strong is more mental than physical. It might start physical, you can have like the physical appearance, but if your mind is not strong, if you don't train your mind and focus on your emotional health, your physical strength doesn't matter. So you really, really have to think about strength as how am I mentally? Like, am I able to cope with hard things when life doesn't go the way that I expected it to go? Yep. How do I respond to that? And what example am I setting because of how I respond to that? And we don't always cope in healthy ways, but if we can get a couple of tools in our tool belt that work for us, whether it be meditating or walking or Jiu Jitsu or even just sitting down and reading a book. Like we have to find what works for us that's going to help us cope with life. That are healthy ways,
Yeah. What about success? What does success look like to you? Because I think there's this idea, it's a false, narrative about like success must be money, right? Like having all the things, right? So like, what does successful look like to you?
I think success is helping other people understand and live out their why and their vision. I love that. And you really have to live in your values. That's success to me. I can accomplish all of the things. I can become, if I want to be a world champion Jiu Jitsu, I can be a world champion Jiu Jitsu. But what is that going to serve me if I can't share that with other people? And if I can't help boost them up and get them to where they want to be too, it means nothing to me. I could win all the medals in the world. I can, I can be teacher of the year. It doesn't matter if I'm not able to help other people recognize their why and their potential for success. So that's success to me, just sharing with others.
That's great. And being an instructional coach, like that's what you're doing. I love that. That's so good. Like I think about like Jocko Willink, if I said his name correctly. He talks about leadership, right? And being a good leader, like a good leader is someone who leads their team to like be successful in their own right? You're helping all the people underneath of you, right? Like I think there's this idea that like the leader is the one who's making all the decisions, but it's really, like the people below you that you're leading or in charge of leading, helping them find their why, helping them be successful in their journey, I think is so great.
The leader casts the vision. Yeah. And when you have a collective whole that understand the vision and realize the purpose of why the vision is in place, then you can really start to create change. Because when people buy into your vision and they buy into your why, then they're going to work really hard to meet that. And that's when you have a shared and collective ownership of this is where we're going and we're doing it together. Like no one person can, I can't attribute my wins in jiu-jitsu to myself. I attribute it to you guys. Like if I didn't have my training partners, I wouldn't have anything, I wouldn't be successful at all. So it's not me, it's us. Yeah. And I think that's important.
Yes, absolutely. So you have a unique, hobby that was in your bio. I want to kind of circle back to. Tell us a little bit about hunting. I know people have probably preconceived notions, or maybe I don't know if you ever come in contact with anyone that's shocked that you hunt. I know when I say that my husband hunts, people are like, "What?" And so tell us about that.
So I grew up in a hunting family. My dad hunts deer, turkey, rabbit hunting. He would drag me along, when I was little, and not necessarily that I enjoyed it when I was younger. I just went because, I had to. But so I've definitely I've grown up in a hunting background, and it's always just been the norm. So I went hunting with my dad growing up, especially for deer, and I've shot a couple deer in my life. And then I kind of got out of it when I started having kids and getting busy with my career. I didn't have as much time. Well, then my husband started turkey hunting, and so I started going with him. And turkey hunting is so much fun. Like I don't deer hunt anymore. It's boring to me. I cannot sit there. I just physically can't. But turkey hunting, you're able to move around a little bit, and you're able to like be active because you're calling to the turkeys and you're listening for their responses. And, there's just so much that is encompassed in it. So I enjoy turkey hunting. We also coon hunt. What? So, and that's like we go out at night, and I'm a night owl. I've realized this as I've gotten older. I've always been like, people say, "Oh, I'm a morning person. I'm a night person." And I was like, I don't really know what I am. But the older I get, I am a night owl. So I enjoy going out when it gets dark and running the dogs and, hearing them tree and then walking all through the woods, getting stuck by briars and all the crazy things. And just, that's fun too. So I enjoy those two mainly. Wow. It's fun.
That's awesome.
And it's a way for me to hang out with my husband too. He has all the hobbies too, but we do a lot of hobbies together, and it helps our marriage just to be awesome. Like we're just besties.
How long have you guys been married?
Oh, Lord, he's going to kill me if I don't know it. Immediately. I think 7 years. I think this is year 8.
But you met, like, in school, right?
Yeah,
like,
we're high school sweethearts. So I was a junior, 17 years old. He was 18. So we've been together 15 years now. This month will be 15 years.
That's awesome.
So it's been a long time. So we're just besties, living life together.
Wow, that's so cool. And then the sourdough lately.
Yeah.
This has become like the craze at our gym. Addie started making sourdough bread, and then she would sell it at the gym.
Yeah.
Well, she is probably currently still selling it at the gym. I bought it one time, and I was like, no more, Addie. Not because it wasn't good. It's because I ate like the whole loaf in a matter of days.
Oh my God, it's bad. I do too. I really do.
It is so good, but we're going to have to plug that. Maybe on your social media, we could maybe have, if people are interested, that sourdough bread. It's so good. But what gets you into that? Is it therapeutic? What happened?
My husband. he got me into it. Okay, so last Christmas he broke his collarbone riding the dirt bike. And so he was sitting at home doing nothing and got addicted to sourdough TikTok.
What? Is this the thing?
He just scrolls TikTok and learns about sourdough. So he's like, I'm gonna make my own sourdough. So he makes his own starter. Well, that was a fail. So then he ordered a starter that from Etsy, and so we got that. And then I just took it over. I tend to just be let me do it. Just let me do it because I can do it better. Okay, so just let me do it. So I took it over, and so I've been doing sourdough for about a year. But it's very therapeutic. You work with your hands, and you get to physically see the changes in the dough, and you can manipulate it. It depends on how much starter you use or how much water you use. What is going to be the hydration of the dough, and then that can affect your fermentation time. It's a whole thing, but it's just, it's really been a good challenge for my brain too. And there's a lot of math involved in sourdough. So I'm thinking in May after state testing, I know, after state testing, I'm going to be y'all, my class, we're learning how to make sourdough, and I'm going to give them their own starter. I've been thinking about it lately.
That is so cool.
Just because there's so much math involved, and I'll be sitting out at night just relaxing and thinking about just the math involved, and I'll be okay, I got to make this into a math problem, so I'll put it in as a warm up, and one time I had them calculate how many bags of flour I would need to make 12 loaves of bread. So they had to do all these conversions, and they had to do, and it was just, and they're sitting here looking at me Miss Edling, what is wrong with you? I don't know any of this. And I'm we're learning it today. We're doing it. So it's fun. It's fun just learning new things that I can take into my classroom.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It permeates every area of your life.
It does.
I love that, your passion for what you're doing. That's so great.
But yeah, my husband gets me into all this crap.
I know. That's what I said. In my last episode with Stephanie, we were talking the same thing. Our husbands have all these bright ideas, and then we get sucked into it.
Yes, we do.
As if we don't have enough on the plate.
But that's good. That's how you know you're married to the right person.
Right.
They're challenging you to do things that you would never otherwise think that you could do. So I really appreciate that I have a husband that's supportive, and he encourages me to be the best version of me. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I love that. What advice would you give someone who is maybe just venturing out in something new? I wanted to say jiu-jitsu, but again, this isn't a jiu-jitsu podcast. I feel like we've hit on it a few times. But what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out a new journey with something maybe even scary or challenging? So yeah, I'll stop there. I was gonna say this comes up all the time, in my class with my own kid, my students. But
same here.
Yeah. So what advice would you give them?
So I have 2 things. Number 1, you can do hard things.
Yep.
And I tell that to my kids all the time. And number 2, don't be afraid to fail. And really, when we talk about failure, it's not so much the failure itself, but what are you doing to learn from that failure? Yeah. If you fail and you give up, then you've truly failed. If you fail and you say, okay, I'm going to use that to make myself better, that's not a failure. That's a success.
Yeah.
So get in there and make mistakes and reassure yourself the whole time that even if you feel oh, I don't know if this is for me, I don't know if I'm doing this correctly, reassure yourself I can do hard things. It feels really uncomfortable, and it's not something that I want to do, but I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to stay consistent with it because I can do hard things. And then when you do make mistakes and when you do have failures, you look at those as opportunities for growth instead of just taking the easy road and saying, oh, this isn't for me, I'm done, Now, there are some things in life where you get into it and you're like, this really isn't for me. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But if it's something that is really, really good for you and you can feel and see the positive differences that it's making in your life, even if it's hard, you should continue doing it.
Yeah.
Because the benefits that you will gain from it just far outweigh your emotions. You have to be able to put your emotions to the side and realize that they are setbacks, I guess, if you allow them to be. But if you keep pushing past your feelings, then you can accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. I was thinking of the words productive struggle, right? Like there's a lot to be said about that struggle. Like, pressure makes diamonds, like all of the, the adages that you hear, like this idea that when you're working out, right, you're tearing down the muscle so it can come back even better, stronger, and I think there's so much to be said there that like you can do those hard things, like hard is necessary for growth. And I just love the way you kind of put all that together.
Yeah, I mean, it's uncomfortable, you get into things and you're like, oh, like this doesn't make me feel good, like I feel very uncomfortable and I feel very vulnerable. And that's one thing with jiu-jitsu, and I know I don't want to make it all about jiu-jitsu.
I know, it's okay.
But seriously though, like when you do a hard sport like that, like it forces you to face your vulnerabilities.
Yeah. And
it really forces you to take an inward look at yourself. When I started, I had already been lifting for 2-3 years at that point. And so I'm walking in there thinking, oh, this is going to be easy for me because I know I lift and I'm strong. But dude, my ego was tested so fast, and I walked out of there like, oh my God, what just happened to me?
Yeah.
And so it forces you to take an inward look at yourself and realize that like you really are not all of that in a bag of chips. And like you have flaws just like everybody else, and we're all just in here with a common purpose of having fun and getting better. And so that's why I love jiu-jitsu. It's just really forced me to take a hard look at myself and how I feel about myself, and then how I feel about others and project that onto others.
Yes.
And so it's really, really good for personal growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is for sure. What's next on the horizon for you? Whether it's jiu-jitsu, do we have any competitions?
So I'm signed up for March Encounter.
Okay.
There's nobody signed up, and I struggle with this. I sign up for competitions, and nobody is ever signing up in my weight class. So it's a struggle. But we'll see if somebody signs up. Otherwise, I don't know when I would next compete. Whenever I compete next will be my first blue belt competition.
Okay.
And I've been a blue belt since May, so I'm coming up on a year soon.
Wow.
But I've enjoyed like just spending my first couple months as a blue belt, just enjoying the sport and not putting so much pressure on myself to have to perform. I really have just loved the opportunity to just learn and get better and not have to feel like, oh, I have to nail this down before I compete. Like, no, I'm coming to class, I'm showing up, I'm having fun. And I think that's been really good for me. So when I do compete, whenever that might be, I'm hoping that I can just take that little bit of, I feel prepared because I haven't pressured myself and I've really just taken the time to learn and, hone in on what I'm good at.
Right.
So
great. And
then for work, I don't know what's next. I know next year is kind of an unknown right now. I'm still going to be math interventionist, but we're implementing a new program into 3 of our schools, ours being one. It's called AVID, and it's a program that's really targeted for those middle of the road kids that are like right there on the cusp of like meeting, on SC Ready testing. But maybe they might not have all of the supports at home that they need. And also they might not know if they want to go to college or if they're able to go to college. And so really, this program is supposed to help them with organizational skills and social skills and emotional, regulation skills. And it's basically just supposed to help them become better humans and help them realize that there are options if they want to go to college, that they have the ability to do that with the right supports. And so we went and toured in Spartanburg this past Thursday, and it was just it was such a good experience. So now I'm like, I kind of want to teach those classes next year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what next year is going to look like in terms of my career, but I'm just open to anything that's going to help me grow and that's going to allow me to help others grow.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
That's awesome, Addie. I love that. Yeah. You're such a go-getter. I love it. I need more of you in my life every day.
Well, life is too short to limit yourself and put yourself in a box. I keep hitting this mic too. But.
I was thinking about, I was just reading this book called 5 a.m. Club, and it was talking about that. It says...
I heard of this.
It literally says,
looking at
yes, it literally says life is too short to play small with your talents. And
I love it. Okay, now I definitely have to download.
So yeah, you do. It's so good. It talks about all those things you were saying.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we go today, is there anything else you want to kind of share with our viewers, listeners? Anything else? Maybe plug your socials or anything?
Yeah. So, dude, okay, listen, my students find me on Instagram, which is, I'm like, y'all, leave me alone. Stop stalking me. So they make fun of me because my Instagram handle is theginger1619. So if you want to follow me, theginger1619. But like we'll be in class and they'll mention something about, they'll be like, the ginger. And they're just like cracking up, and I'm like, leave me alone and get out of my personal life.
That's so funny. They love you so much. So they want to follow you. I love that.
But yeah, so that's me. I'm just hanging out on Instagram, the ginger,
1619. She's fun. You definitely need to follow her.
Yeah. I post a lot of inspirational things and things that I feel like probably step on people's toes, but I do that on purpose.
No, I definitely, there are times where I'm like, ooh, she just checked me with that. Like, especially the child advocacy post that you do. It's just a different perspective, and it's so great and refreshing to you just have to be reminded of it. And if it does make you cringe, then maybe you need to reflect.
They need to hear it.
Yeah.
So I keep putting it out there.
Yeah.
I keep pushing the agenda. And,
that's awesome.
If you want to follow me and see it, great. If that's not for you, hey, don't, But I'm still going to be me at the end of the day. Yeah. And I'm going to push for the things that I know are right for kids.
Yeah. So. And if you want her to beat you up at Jiu Jitsu, come on down. We have our free women's class on Wednesdays at Triumph Fight Academy. It's a great place to be. We have strong women like Addie, Stephanie that you saw last week, and myself. We all. It's great.
Yeah, Jiu Jitsu is for anybody. I don't care what anybody says. And what I hate the most is people who I'll tell them they're so interested in Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
I have people all the time that are like, "Well, tell me about Jiu Jitsu. You do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, well. I'm too old, or I'm just not in shape like I used to be. And I'm like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Those are excuses. I don't care what you look like, where you come from. Just come to class. Nobody cares. We all love each other. We all support each other.
Yes.
We don't care what you look like. And we don't care that you're 50, 60, 70. I don't care. Come to the gym.
I think they say something like the hardest belt to get is the white belt, because you have to keep coming back. You have to earn it, and you have to and that's probably the hardest belt. Yeah. Just because it's
it's scary.
It's just so scary.
It's
you don't know a lot.
So scary thinking about joining a sport like that. And I never saw myself doing anything like this. Yeah. So just if you can step on the mats and conquer that fear, your whole life will change for the better.
Yep.
It's been amazing. Just the transformation with lifting.
Yes.
That definitely helped my mental health. But when I started jiu-jitsu, it was like the bow on the package. I didn't necessarily think I needed the bow, but the bow needed to be there because it has literally saved my life in many ways.
Yeah. And the two just lend themselves to each other, the lifting and the jiu-jitsu. I found it made me want to step up my lifting game just to kind of compete with the sport itself. So yeah, definitely. I think it's something to look into. I said this last time that, if you're looking for a community of people to support you, you have to take the first step, get involved in a gym or get involved in some sort of community of people that are going to lift and support you. And, I feel like the fitness community is a great avenue for that. But the sport of jiu-jitsu in itself it's just a different beast, man.
It really is.
I sometimes feel like I talk about it too much. Because
I
use it
all
the time in my morning meeting at school. I'm like, guys, okay, let me tell you about jiu-jitsu. And then my kids are probably like eye rolling at this point. Yes. Like, not again.
I do the same thing.
I'm like, it teaches us so many life lessons.
Yeah,
and
it does.
My husband's sitting over here smiling like, I told you so. But, yeah, it really just makes you feel good about yourself. Don't get me wrong. You can feel really bad about yourself too on some days. But overall, it's just more good than bad.
It is. I mean, and being able to share that with my students too, and them see that like I'm doing hard stuff.
Yeah.
And, like sometimes I'll come in and I'll have like an injury. Like I'll have like when my foot, when I hurt my toe, and they're like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "What do you think happened to me?"
Like,
I went to jiu-jitsu, but the fact that they see that like I go there and sometimes, and I'll tell them too, like, y'all, I got my butt beat last night, like. This person and this person, they had me in a triangle, and then I got armbarred, and then I got choked, and they're like, what? I'm like, what's that's scary, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm going back today, and they're just to see that like, okay, these bad things are happening to me, but they're really not bad, they're good, and so I keep going back, and like they see that like, well, she's out there like doing hard stuff, and like, okay, I can do hard stuff too,
that's awesome. It's just such a great example to them.
It is.
I love it. Well, it's been great chatting. If you have anything else, any other words of wisdom before we end?
I could probably go for like 2 more days, but
I know. But we could sit here talking and talking.
We really could. I feel like we do this all the time anyway. Like, I know. Like before class, and we get into these deep conversations. That's what I really like just deep conversations. I don't like surface level. I can talk surface level with anybody, but like just really getting into those deeper life kind of questions and topics that really fires me up. So.
And just finding those like-minded people that are willing to push you, like iron sharpens iron. Like you need to have real talk or real conversations with people, hold each other accountable, push each other. And if you're one that, compares yourself to everyone, which I feel like women, we tend to do, maybe that isn't, I don't know, maybe that isn't for you, but like you need to, I feel, at least in my life, I need to find strong females that are going to push me to be better. I don't know. I feel like I feel so much better about myself when I do that.
Me too.
What else could I do?
And I never thought that I would be that way. I didn't have a whole lot of like girlfriends that I could do things like that with. So that just the fact that I have all of you and like, we can just support each other, and there doesn't have to be like the sense of, oh, well, she's better than me and she looks better than me, and she like, I don't feel that at all with y'all. Right. Like I feel like y'all are just like, y'all are my people.
I know, we joke. We have a love fest all the time. We're like, I love you. I just love you guys in a text, and we
it's so good. It's just
people probably eye roll at that, but whatever.
But it's awesome. Then they just need to come join the group, and then they can find out for themselves how great it is.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Well, I love you, girl. Thanks for coming.
Yes,
and anytime. Yeah, I'll be seeing you this week at the gym. And for anyone that is listening today, I just want to invite you one more time to check us out at Gunz and Rollz Fitness to kind of tune into our Gunz and Bunz podcast, and just keep coming back to see all these lovely ladies, these strong, powerful, successful women that I have invited. And
you too.
Oh, thanks. But yeah, we would love to just have you be here with us every week, and just keep coming back for more. All right. Thanks, Addie.
Thank you so much.
Bye.